These lessons are recorded using 4K UHD video assets with aspect ratio 21:9 and 3840 by 1600 resolution, to mimic studio-wide films, and utilize ultra-wide monitors for editing, which is most efficient, or use 2 monitors minimum. You can use your own media with any resolution when following these lessons. We'll do our best to zoom when needed, best if viewed on a 4K monitor while learning these techniques.
Let's look at the 2 main trim modes here on the edit page. The first is the arrow tool selector, and that's what we've been using most of this time in all previous lessons 1 through 9. This little arrow. Hover over it. It's the selection mode. Press A for the keyboard shortcut. With dragging to the left, for example, I'm making these operations happen. What happens when I click and drag? It's leaving a hole, it's leaving a gap. In other words, when you're set up in the selection mode, you're really only affecting the clips that you're adjusting. Now, when I go into the trim mode and click that button, I get a very different operation. This is what happens on the cut page if you remember. Watch lessons 20 to 24 for cut page overview. This same bracket pointing right will now do something different called a ripple drag. It is adjusting the position of every shot after it. I'm adjusting the overall length of the timeline as well. I'm going to undo that. Now, why didn't track 2 go with it? If you remember, in lesson 9 we turned that off with this auto selector. Track 2 is turned off from any timeline operations. That's what that means, and it is very powerful once you understand how to use it for your advanced edits. It's not honoring these types of operations. Let's turn it on and try again. Click, drag, and now track 2 is moving with this trim operation. Press A to go back to selection mode. Let's close this gap first. In previous lesson we did it with clicking X and then pressing del for ripple delete. Let's do that again so we can go over the next point of slipping and sliding with the trim tool. Click B.AC on trim mode, or press T. The one operation that's the same in both the selector mode and the trim mode is when I'm hovering on an edit point. I got the double brackets with the double arrows, click and drag, and all I'm adjusting is this edit point itself. Now, I'm going to zoom in on this timeline and, so far, we've been working at edit points with these ripple operations. But, I want you to notice that when I'm in the middle of a clip here, I've got the brackets facing outwards and the arrows on the inside of the brackets. 2 different modes here. There's the mode in the top 2/3 of the track and then a mode in the bottom third of the track. On the top, we're going to get what's called a slip. So, I'm going to click and drag and notice that the in and out points stay precisely the same. All I'm doing is slipping the frames in between the in and out point. It is not changing the duration of the timeline, I'm not affecting anything else but the clip I'm using. Look at the viewer above. There's a 4-up view as I move the slides. You can see the 2 top squares are the in and out point of the clip that I'm slipping, and then, the 2 squares below it are the match frames of those in and out points of the before shot and the after shot. On the left are the in, on the right is the out. If I go down to the bottom here, click and drag, now it turns into a slide. What happens? Well, the in and out points are locked and I'm actually moving the clip through the edit. I'm not adjusting the length of the timeline. So, you notice, remember I said a little earlier that trim tools affect the overall duration of the timeline. That's true when you're working at the edit point. But, when you're working on these slip and slide operations, that's not true, you're actually only working on the shot and the edit points immediately surrounding that shot. If you're new to editing, then you probably understand why the cut page was created, because these modalities are confusing. But if you spend your career editing full-time, then the tools here, in the edit page, are essential for quickly making complex edits and trims.